topic. Now we move on to our next news. The United Nations has sounded the alarm over spiraling violence in Syria, warning of a deepening humanitarian crisis. Briefing an emergency session of the Security Council, UN Assistant Secretary General Khalid Khiari described a grim situation marked by mass displacement, widespread casualties, and civilian infrastructure on the brink of collapse. Hospitals are reportedly at or near capacity, with power and water outages compounding this crisis. Let's listen into both Khiari and Dorothy Shia, the U.S. representative to the UN on the sectarian clashes.
There were further alarming reports of civilian religious figures and detainees being subjected to extrajudicial executions and humiliating and degrading treatment. Footage of desecration and mutilation of corpses, as well as incidents of sectarian incitement and looting of private property, was widely circulated on social and conventional media, causing further trauma and fueling intercommunal tensions and violence.
To that end, we are calling on the Syrian government to lead on determining the path forward. We have seen deeply troubling reports of atrocities committed against Syrian civilians. The government must investigate all reports of abuse and hold the perpetrators accountable. While the United States did not support recent Israeli strikes, we are engaging diplomatically with Israel and Syria at the highest levels, both to address the present crisis and reach a lasting agreement between two sovereign states.
Turning to Israeli airstrikes, Khiari accused Israel of violating Syria's sovereignty and urged both nations to uphold the 1974 disengagement agreement to prevent a broader escalation. Syria's UN envoy Qusay al-Dakhak condemned the Israeli strikes, rejecting what he called fabricated justifications and calling the attacks part of a larger campaign to destabilize the country. This is what Qusay further stated.
وترفض سوريا رفضا قاطعا الذرائع التي تسوقها السلطات الإسرائيلية لمحاولة تبرير أفعالها العدوانية، وتؤكد أن هذه الممارسات ليست سوى امتداد لسياسات الاحتلال الممنهجة الرامية إلى تقويض استقرار سوريا وجرها إلى ساحة الصراع. إذ شهدت الأشهر الماضية كما تعلمون جميعا انتهاكات متكررة من قبل إسرائيل لاتفاق فض الاشتباك لعام 1974.
Now we go back to our guest discussion with Dr. Pansara Amarasinghe. Dr. Pansara, thank you for staying with us. With Syria's humanitarian infrastructure seem to be collapsing, is the international community doing enough to prevent a total disaster, according to you?
Yeah, I think, it is very much aligned with the question that you asked previously. Now, here we have a situation in which United States wants to maintain quite a strategic agility protocol towards Syrian conflict, because Washington wants to see a very much pro-Western government in Damascus. But at the same time, we can see Israel remains quite ambivalent, and there is a pro-jihadi leader has been elected as the interim president of Syria, which Israel finding to be a great threat for the very existence of the Jewish state. At the same time, we must understand, when you look at this situation from a bigger picture, from a nuanced picture, the Israel is worried about the Druze population. So when you look at the rationale behind Israeli strikes over the certain provinces in Syria, and also last Wednesday they bombed Israeli defense ministry in Damascus, and even the certain buildings near the presidential palace was devastated in Damascus, which the Damascus citizen did not even undergo during the civil war. So this seems to be an escalating scenario. So when you ask that whether the international community is capable of preventing this escalation further, my answer is quite simple. As you know, Israel has lesser stances and lesser standing towards the international norms, so even public international law. It has simply opted for a strategic move based on its defense expectations. So I don't find that there would be any repercussion or there would be a severe pressure from international community which will be able to control and undermine Israeli attacks in Syria, unless there would be a very strong consensus between Washington and Jerusalem. That is likely to stop the escalation in Syria, in my point of view.
Thank you, Dr. Pransara, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay in this discussion topic. The Syrian presidency has